Every community has stories. This is where ours live. The We Are Grant County app brings together local voices, events, businesses, the podcast, and the magazine all in one place. And we're just getting started. We're looking for storytellers, guests, and sponsors to help shape what's next. Visit
wearegrantcounty.com.
Before we jump into today's episode, we want to tell you about something really special happening right here in our community. Dream Grant County is doing more than just talking about inclusion. They're creating real opportunities for individuals with special needs to grow, work, and connect. I recently sat down with some of the families and youth that are working with Dream, and their stories really do stick with you. So confidence, independence, purpose, it's all happening through places like the Kentucky Y'all Icebox. And now, Dream Grant County is inviting you in. On June 20th, Dream Grant County will be hosting Once Upon a Dream. It'll be a magical event filled with great food, powerful stories, a silent auction, and yes, plenty of sweet treats. This isn't just an event, it's something you'll definitely feel.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the We Are Grant County podcast. We're joined today by Todd Moody, Superintendent of Grant County Schools. Grant County Schools impact thousands of students and families every single day. We're going to talk about his journey in education, what's happening across our school district, and the opportunities and programs helping Grant County students prepare for the future. Todd, or Mr. Moody, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So to get us started today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in education?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Harrison County, but not far from the Grant County line, a little area called Hinton, which is halfway between Corinth and Sadieville. So I've been familiar with Grant County my whole life, but I went to school in Harrison County. And after I graduated high school, I had the opportunity to go to the University of South Carolina to pursue a music education degree. So I was able to do that. And that was a very exciting time. And upon graduation, was approached with an opportunity to continue my education at the University of Arkansas. So I did a graduate assistantship at the University of Arkansas, which was a lot of fun. I was a music education major there as well. And as a graduate assistant, I was in charge of the women's athletic pep bands. And so that was an exciting time. And my first year in that role, our women's basketball team made it to the Final Four. So I was able to go to a lot of exciting college women's basketball games, and as well as support the football program and the volleyball program through that. When I graduated from the University of Arkansas, I was invited to an interview at Williamstown Independent Schools for a band director position. And interestingly enough, the superintendent at that time was Mr. Cliff Wallace, and he was actually my high school's band director at Grant County. So there was a kind of a lineage there. I was really impressed by Mr. Wallace. I accepted the opportunity to begin my career there at Williamstown. I was there from 1999 to 2002. And really enjoyed my time there. It was a great community, a lot of support, and we were able to do some really cool things and grow the program. But had the opportunity to move to Clark County and became the band director at George Rogers Clark High School. Was fortunate enough to be able to win a state championship there in marching band, on the second one that they had been able to win. So I was excited about that accomplishment. Spent some time there. 2007, I moved to Scott High School in Kenton County. Spent several years there and really focused more on the concert band side of things, and became increasingly interested in school administration. Had always served on site-based councils, but just always found myself in the middle of conversations and was able to work on some innovative initiatives that Kenton County was going through at that time, and found the experience to be very enjoyable. And felt like that there might be a calling there, but wasn't quite sure how I was going to manage more schooling and full-time band directing at the same time.
That could be quite a commitment.
Yes, it was, and I wasn't sure how that was going to work out. So I had the opportunity to take a middle school program at Connor Middle School over in Boone County, and I saw that as my opportunity to maybe, if I wanted to, open up some time in my calendar to be able to go back to school and still work at the same time to be able to make that happen. So I spent 3 years at Connor Middle School as the band director and was able to finish my administration certification through the University of Cumberland's. And so upon completion, I began applying for jobs. And of course, at that time, to land an administrative job was kind of difficult. And so I started applying internally there in Boone County and was very fortunate to be picked up by Ryle High School. And so I served a year as vice principal at Ryle High School. And what was special about that, Matt Turner was the principal of Ryle High School at that time. And he was also my K-TIP teacher, which is the internship program that existed when I began in education at Williamstown. So we had that connection. So it was great to come full circle with Mr. Turner and learned a lot from him there at Ryle High School.
Northern Kentucky's pretty small.
Yeah.
I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, marching band, we're connected.
Mhm.
The different, George Rogers Clark, one of my band director, did a program there for a little while. I'm like, we'll talk about that after.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And to your point, though, it's amazing to me how connected the world is. And so I always try to make sure that if I have to leave, I leave on the best terms possible, because you never know when you're going to be exposed to someone again in a different role and on a different journey. So that's an interesting point you make. So I was able to go back to Connor Middle School after a year at Ryle High School, which I loved my time at Ryle High School, but I wanted my own grade level kind of leadership responsibilities, and they weren't quite in that place yet. So I went back to Connor Middle School, became the 7th grade vice principal, spent a couple of years there and had a tremendous experience and really enjoyed that. And then the principal position at Mason Corinth Elementary opened up. And I was quite interested in it and was able to get that job and spent 3 years at Mason Corinth Elementary as principal. And then after 3 years, the Grant County High School position had opened up. And so I was interested in that position and was able to get that job. So I spent 2 years at Grant County High School as principal. And now I'm in my 2nd year as superintendent for Grant County Schools.
So, altogether, how long have you been in education?
So I'm finishing my 26th year this year.
There you go.
Is there, I guess, something that has maybe surprised you in the superintendent role that you weren't maybe expecting?
Well, I don't know that it necessarily is a surprise. I didn't know how much I would appreciate the fact that there's a finite amount of resources and everything competes for them. So if it's financial resources, if it's human resources, if it's space, there's only so much that we have access to that we're able to generate. There's only so much revenue, and, everybody makes a compelling case for why their program or their interest is most deserving of those resources. So I probably underestimated the amount of thought and care and strategy that has to go in making sure that you govern those resources with a guiding principle in mind, that you are always open to the possibilities for the future, have to be creative on how you expand those resources. And then the pressures politically, we're in a budget cycle right now. The legislature in Kentucky, in the joint session. So there's a lot of pressure there. The state's no different than a school district. They have a limited number of resources. And ultimately, those resources that the state are able to acquire is basically based on the prosperity of the Commonwealth, so the citizens. So we are truly all in this together. And so it is a challenge at time to recognize that, so many groups and people have such compelling and legitimate passions for the things that they're interested in, but at some point you do have to make some tough decisions, acknowledging that we're not there yet, and maybe someday we can work towards other people's visions for their program.
Absolutely. So what schools are we going to be talking about today? Like, what schools are in the district?
So it's a great question. We have 4 elementary schools, and I just always think of them from south to north. So again, where I was principal is Mason Corinth Elementary. And then as you move up, you have Dry Ridge Elementary, and then Sherman Elementary. And our northernmost school is Crittenden Mount Zion Elementary. And then we have 2 secondary schools, Grant County Middle School, and then we, of course, have Grant County High School.
And out of all the schools, approximately how many students?
We hover around an enrollment of 3,100 students, and that was dipping after COVID a little bit, but we have seen a little bit of a stabilization and are encouraged by that.
Do you think the dip was based on maybe some of the older students finishing things online, or just people, I guess, entertaining the idea of homeschooling?
Pardon me, yes. I absolutely do think that the introduction of online learning in a mass, broad scale certainly led people to think differently about how they would take advantage of that opportunity. And I do think that homeschooling has gained popularity in this area for whatever reason. I want to be very careful to say that we're not anti-homeschool, and we respect it's everybody's right to decide what's best for them, and ultimately, whatever the parents support will be the best opportunity for a child. But I just want to be clear and building transparency and letting people know the great things that we have to offer, and respect everyone's right to choose what's best for them, without saying that if you're not for us, you're against us kind of mentality. It's still our community, and my ultimate goal is that everyone has a type of education that affords them the opportunities that they want in life. And I often talk to the seniors at Grant County High School and say, my definition of wealth is not the amount of money that you have in your bank account, but rather the options that you have as an adult. And I encourage them to be the authors of their own story. And the last thing I want for them is to feel stuck and like they have no options. I want them to pursue their curiosities, their passions, and their joy.
Absolutely.
That's a great goal to have.
Yeah. 'Cause I know out of just working with my young son at home, I am happy to send him to school.
You're not alone in that.
Homeschooling is not on my agenda.
We readily will admit that we are not the experts.
Well, it is interesting after, in the past 2 years, we've had some stretch of snow days that have just been unavoidable.
Yes.
I do want to commend the county and the state for their efforts on getting our roads cleared, but you just can't battle 12-degree temperatures that are that last for days upon days. But it is interesting to me. Sometimes we return without full bus service and, some limitations, but those are some of our highest attendance percentages, is after kids have been home for several days. And so for a lot of people, it's a good model.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging. Like
Yes.
you maybe appreciate your public school services a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So you let us know which schools were in the district. Is there something about each of the schools that kind of makes them a little bit unique?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I appreciate about our district, is that we have some common commitments as a district about how we do things. And all of those are based on best practices and doing the best that we can to make sure that our students have every opportunity that we can provide for them. But we also allow for individual character and personality and atmosphere. I know we were talking before the show, a couple of schools that you may go in. They each have their own feel. And part of that is their interpretation of how they structure their behavior supports. Part of that is how they, it could be as simple as how they greet students coming off the bus or car riders in the morning. Their communication outlets, whether or not they do a weekly newsletter or if they do videos. So all those things allow for a very distinct identity. But at the end of the day, and I think this was evident, I'd say at the boys district tournament game, I was able to attend that game over there in Walton. And what really impressed me was the number of people that showed up for that game. I had to sit behind the band because I knew that I could manage that without being distracted. I'm used to hearing bands during ball games all the time. And so the band was gracious enough to allow me to sit up with the instrument cases back there. But I was so delighted to see so many parents and parents of former students turn out for that game. So one of the things that I think makes Grant County so special is in those key critical moments, we can unite quickly, and it's familiar territory, and we get behind things aggressively. And I appreciate that about this community.
It was an electrifying atmosphere.
It
I
certainly
should say
was.
that.
And
The band didn't ask you to jump in there?
They did, and I made them this promise that if we were to advance, I was going to bring my trumpet and play it the
Oh,
next game.
I was gonna ask because I was a trumpet player back in the day. So
Very
that
good.
band I remember very fondly. So that's pretty fun.
I'll have to give a shout out to the team and the coaches as well. I was already planning when I was going to work my warm up routine back into my schedule because it looked like I was going to have to bring my trumpet in a pretty short of turnaround time there.
Yep. So academically, how do Grant County students perform when they're compared to other students in other schools across the state?
I appreciate that question. A couple of things on that. To directly answer your question, I would say that we're near the middle of the pack in terms of academic performance across the state. But to qualify that a little bit, that's if you look at our proficiency and distinguished numbers. And that's going to be separate from our color indicators. And I know that in our current accountability system model, each school and each district is given a rating. And so that's based on a pretty complex and complicated set of metrics that I would say the non-educator would struggle to kind of understand. And I would also say that in my 26 years, I've lost track of how many times that rating, it's been a star rating in the past, it's been a color rating. There's all types of labels that have been assigned to it. So it can become overwhelming really quick. So the one stable that remains, the one constant, is how many students are proficient or distinguished in the content areas. And so we hover anywhere between 30 and 40% as a district on the whole in reading and math and that proficiency and distinguished rating. I will also say that the expectations of students over my 26 years has shifted significantly. I can remember when I first started in 1999, we had basically sheets of facts known as core content of knowledge. And as a teacher, it was pretty cut and dried how to prepare students to be familiar with facts so that by the time they take the state testing for their accountability, as long as you had done your job exposing them to the facts, you could be reasonably assured they'd be able to perform. I think the shift that we've encountered as a state is a positive one. It's less fact-driven and more process-driven. And so it's about the interpretation and synthesis of facts and the ability to read data tables and graphs and charts, or capture themes and stories and literature. And so it's definitely a bigger ask of our students. So I don't know that you could go back to, say, the year 2002 and compare 2022, the state accountability designations, and have a fair comparison, if that makes any sense.
It does. Excuse me. So over recent years, sticking with Grant County schools, what kind of improvements or successes have you seen?
Well, so there's been academic improvements for sure. The most notable in my mind is our graduation rate has improved dramatically over the course of the past few years. I want to give a shout out to our high school and our counselors for their work. Every senior is identified throughout their senior year, and their progress towards graduation is closely monitored. And there's lots of interventions, lots of meetings with adults and students and families to make sure that we do everything to keep students on track, because we know that their chances for future success are greatly impacted by their graduation. So that's been an important area of focus that I have seen great improvement on. Another thing that we've been historically strong in is our college and career readiness. And so we have several things that contribute to that, not the least of which is our wonderful Career and Tech Center that we're so proud of to have, and makes us so unique across the Commonwealth to be able to offer 12 pathways to our students, and they can graduate with either an end of program assessment or an industry certification that really gives them a leg up in future endeavors. So that has been historically very strong. And we also have expanded our work-based learning. That's our co-op opportunities that our students take advantage of. And then more recently, I think we can expect to see greater gains, especially in our elementary school, because they've been the longest at it. In our reading and math achievement scores, we've adopted something called HQIR, and that stands for a high quality instructional resource. And what's unique about that than what we've had in the past is that it's really designed from a scientific perspective, really considers how students learn, and lessons are designed very intentionally by experts in the field. And so our teachers are then tasked to bring that to life with their students and build positive relationships with our students. But it is such a more aligned and strategic approach to curriculum planning than what we've had in the past. We've been early adopters of those programs, and we've had that in our elementary schools the longest. And so I expect that we will see gains in our reading and math scores, especially at our elementary schools. And then just last year, the district adopted an aligned curriculum for reading math across the entire district. So middle and high school have an aligned curriculum in those two areas as well. It's going to take a few years for that work to show up, but we believe in doing it intentionally and doing it the right way. And instead of banking on a flash in the pan year, we want steady, sustained growth over time, because we want to build something that's enduring and lasting and puts our students in a very good spot.
So as we were just talking about the seniors and things like that and graduating, do you have any, I guess, statistical numbers or any kind of like roundabout numbers that kind of tell us? Now, I know things can change after everybody gets out of school, but like who's going directly, like how many go directly into college or vocational or straight into the workforce, military? Do you have any numbers along those lines?
Yes, and these are very rough numbers, and these
Right.
are kind of averages over the past few years. But when it comes to a traditional 4-year school, we have between 25 and 30% of students that choose that option. And then when it comes to career and technical education, roughly about 15% of our students choose that option. We have about 5% of our students that choose military service as an option. And then that leaves about 50% of that enter directly into the workforce. And then, it's harder to track those students that enter directly into workforce. Yeah, I just know from knowing people that sometimes after a year or two, they integrate back into a program
Right.
of some sort. So that gives you kind of the rough numbers of where we are. When I was high school principal, and I think this message is still there today, we didn't say that one path was more valuable than another. We just said that from our perspective, we've done our job. If you have a plan by the time that you graduate, and having served 26 years in education, I can tell you, just based on what I've observed and witnessed, the greatest hurdle for students upon completion of public school is getting started. And so, and the hardest part about getting started is having a plan and an entry point. So that's why I'm so grateful for the programs that we offer at the high school and the work that our principals and counselors and teachers commit to, because I feel very strongly that one of the unique things about being a Grant County student is that there is a strong focus by everyone to help you find your spark and help you flesh out your plan so that by the time that you graduate, you at least have a framework. And we all know that life sometimes throws you curveballs and surprises, and sometimes those are struggles, and sometimes those are real gifts, you know. So to be able to have that framework, this is how I achieve something. I'm familiar with goal setting. I'm familiar with being with the unfamiliar. And I think that's oftentimes a big barrier for people. We talked about, starting a podcast. That's a very unfamiliar territory, but you all have leaned into it and
Yes.
have done a
We don't know what
wonderful
you're talking
job. We've leaned into it at the district level too. And so letting kids know that it's okay to not perfect something right away. It's okay to not be great at something. But I would encourage all of them and continue to find out what interests you the most. What are you most curious about? What are you researching in your free time? And then how can you get greater exposure to that thing that interests you and understand that, it's probably not going to be linear in your life, but as you get older, like me, you're going to be able to look back, and you commented earlier, just the connections, right? So for me, it started with a passion for playing trumpet and an excitement about making music. And so I could not have predicted that I would be in the seat I am now and where I am now, but I can certainly look back and see how all things connected that led me here. But I feel so fortunate that in my life, I feel like I have pursued so many things that I have found interesting, and that has just led me to where I am today.
And I really like the fact that, because when I graduated in 92, I felt like the only option was college.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's where you have to go. And I was like, okay, I guess that's the next step. I mean, I lasted 2.5 years, and the college and I agreed that it was time to try something else.
Mutual.
So, I mean, after that, I took 5 years off, but then I eventually was like, oh, this is the path that I want. I went back to school,
Mm-hmm.
got my bachelor's degree, and 6 months after that, I went for my master's.
Wow.
So it's kind of like, it's maybe not right out of high school. Not everybody needs to start, but some people can come back around
Sure.
and get what it is that they feel that they need at that point. So I can attest that, you don't have to do it right after school.
That's right. And none of those experiences are lost, I think,
Right.
if you frame it the right way. There's always something to be learned. There's always someone to watch, regardless of what field you find yourself in. And I think if you're just open to the possibilities, all those things can inform and help you better guide your future path.
Mm-hmm. And podcasting is not what I majored in.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
Communications was not what I majored in. But again, it all comes back around. So kind of getting back on task. Sorry.
Sure.
She's usually not the one that gets us off task. So apologies.
So athletics are a big part of the school district. So how do you think sports fit into the overall mission of the school system?
Well, I think it is that meaningful community first and foremost for our students. I know that there's been multiple studies on happiness, and I can't get the name of the study correct, but I know it began at Harvard, I believe, in the 20s and 30s, and there was this lifelong tracking of a group of students that came up through there, and they looked for trends about what led to a happy life. And one of the things that was identified in that study was that you have a sense of belonging to a meaningful community. So for me, athletics and any extracurricular or co-curricular activity provides that meaningful community. These are my brothers and sisters. We're working towards a common goal. We face adversity. We do things that we don't enjoy so that we can expand our capacity to take on opponents and challenges. So I think that's one important part of that. And then transitioning to the discipline, I think as technology becomes more advanced and capable of performing human functions, it's going to be critical that students have the opportunity to develop a sense of discipline. And so I can't imagine any technology that is going to replace a student running the ball down the field, or having to work on their free throw shot, or having the physical stamina to run long distance or wrestle an opponent, or determine where the fish are and kind of be strategic in that. So I think athletics provides a very practical purpose for that. And I think as humans, we're designed to overcome, right? And so we are at our best when we have a clear and identified goal and a target and an aim. And when we have to push ourselves physically and emotionally and mentally, and we have to sustain that, and when we have to do that as a team or individually, I can't see any negative to that. So I think some of the things that we aren't able to cover in the math textbook or through a novel or a chemistry experiment, I think there are so many real practical applications that are provided through our athletic programs. And again, I also think it creates a sense of loyalty. I don't expect all of our graduates to remain in Grant County. I imagine that many of them will move on. My hope is that they will always have fond memories of Grant County. And whenever they happen to be back in the community, that they want to go see that ball game, or they're interested enough to maybe follow us on social media, to root for the home team, and those kinds of sentiments. Because I think our students realize, as athletes, they're not just representing our school, they're representing our community, and they feel that strongly. So those are just some of the things. That's not an exhaustive list, but those are some of the things that I think are the value adds of our athletic programs.
And adding to that, as I'm on the sidelines,
Mhm.
taking photos and
Yeah.
things like that of these athletic events, I do see people that have graduated the programs. They do come, they're supporting the teammates that they once had and things like that. And you can see that connection is still there, and it's very deep. Um
And I
so
think, just to that point, I think that's powerful for our current students. I talked about growing up in Harrison County, and I was not an athlete, but I was in the marching band, and there was a rich tradition there. And when we really achieved or performed, I could feel the community's support, and I could feel that there was a connection there, and that's so important for our students. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Um
I
so
cut her off all the time.
Okay.
So what I know that there's a major renovation going on at the high school. You
Mhm.
want to touch on what's happening over there?
It's a very exciting time, in my opinion. Some things that we have long wished for have finally been brought to fruition. And so we are currently in the process of installing a turf field for the football and soccer programs, as well as our band program and PE programs. So we're really excited that we're not going to have to worry about water pooling and drainage issues and soil quality and grass fungus and all the
Yep.
things that we've dealt with for so long. So that's a great thing in my mind. It's going to be beautiful. I think it'll be a source of pride for our community, and I think it will put our students on an even playing field, pun intended, with other programs around the region. But also in that, for the first time, we're going to have our own tennis courts. So that's going to be a part of that. Some concession stand expansion to be able to better serve our fans. There's going to be a new lighting, a new scoreboard, new sound system, some changes to the athletic training facility that are long overdue to make that more conducive for the work that goes on there. So we're excited about that. And then we have some pavement that needs to be addressed as well in that project. But I'm incredibly excited about this opportunity to bring our athletic facilities up to the next level, and like I said, put us in the same realm as our competitors, and I hope as serves as a source of pride for our students and our community.
I know I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
Um, it is very exciting, and I mean, when I travel with these teams, I see what other schools have, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh man, that is nice.
Right?
It's just, I mean, just from like the football standpoint and taking photos there, it's very dark,
Sure.
and the ground has like a a bow to it.
Yes. Right. Right.
So if they're on the other side of the field, I'm really not going to get that shot.
Right.
But in like the other stadiums where the ground is flatter because of the turf and things like that,
Mhm.
it's much easier to get that. So looking forward to being able to capture some exciting moments there.
And another piece that I didn't touch on is not has nothing to do with athletics, but I look forward to being able to have high school graduation out on that beautiful field
Hmm.
too. I can already see in my mind it's already such a great setting as you look into the western sky, the way the stadium's situated and the sunsets and the trees and the natural beauty of Grant County, and then to have our graduates out there. I'm really excited about the potential for that. I hate it for this year's class
Yeah.
that it's not going to be possible, but the big change is, we're not going to be as restricted as we've been in the past, because if the field has been wet in the past and it could be sunny on graduation day,
Yeah.
if you try to set chairs out there, you'd sink at least 3 or 4 inches
Yeah.
into the mud. And so I'm excited about the opportunity for that as well.
So bringing back to a little bit on athletics real quick,
Mhm.
what are some accomplishments that Grant County Athletics have had that some people may not know about?
Well, I think, we have some very visible programs like our football and basketball programs, and those are probably the most familiar programs. Volleyball would be in there too. But I think we have some up and coming programs that maybe not everybody's aware of. And so just as recently as last year, I think our wrestling program, we had a state championship wrestler in Ethan Davis, and we had other athletes compete at a very high
Mhm.
level. Another program that I think is gaining momentum, I know that we just had a college signing a couple of weeks ago, is our bass fishing program.
Yes.
So I'm very excited about the traction that we're gaining there. And then lastly, I would say archery. And so our elementary archery program has just exploded, and I love that because earlier you heard me talk about the value of having a target and aiming for a goal, and I don't think there's anything more literally aligned to that than archery. So I expect that participation in our athletic programs will increase just because archery is a great starting point for our youngsters. And so as they get older, they may be more inclined to lean into other programs as well. So, and there are many others. We've had some recent success in golf and cross country and track and all the things. So I'm very proud of how we compete as a district. And I think with time, we'll only continue to improve, and with facilities improvements, I think it's an exciting time for the athletic program here at Grant County.
And I mean, I agree 100% with all that. Yeah, but we can speak to like Dry Ridge at least.
Sure.
With our son participating in that, like this was his first year in archery. He loves it.
Great.
And he's come so far. But he also, like last year, he started with their running club.
Oh, okay.
And he really enjoyed doing that. And he was like, "When's running club? When's running club?" And it's like, well, it's not yet, but they just started running club up for this season.
Mhm.
So now because archery's still going because state tournament and all that. So he's currently doing archery and running club.
He's a little more active than I realized he would be in
Yeah.
elementary school. I was like, I don't remember doing all of these things. So it's such a great point, and
Mm.
I would say um, shows off our district so well how many opportunities and how because I mean there's commitment from teachers.
Sure.
There's a lot of buy-in that is required for some of this stuff.
Yes, and the benefit too that we haven't spoken about yet, that mind-body connection, I think that is so good for um, people as they grow up to have a strong sense of mind-body connection, and you're absolutely right. I didn't have these opportunities in elementary school, and would have jumped at them had we had them. But I'm just so pleased that we are able to offer these programs to our students.
I would not have jumped at running club.
But I mean, and not only that, but I'm sure there's studies showing about school activities and performance and education. Our son was gifted ADHD from me,
Okay.
and I mean, it's something to watch him
Hmm.
focus and
Right.
still. And I was so worried that, but it's something that's really, he's grown, and it's like, is this the same kid that, is running around our house? Like,
Sure.
so it's so fascinating. And yeah,
That's great.
Um, and I know we were speaking on athletics, but I wanted to, this point kind of popped into my head. Um, and again, we're speaking for Dry Ridge Elementary, but I know that all the schools offer different things. But it's the after school programs as well. It's
Mhm.
not just athletics. There are after school programs that the schools are offering that give them other opportunities to socialize with people in their grade, or maybe a grade level higher or lower than they are. So, and I know that our son partakes in some of that stuff too, and it's really beneficial.
I really appreciate the work of our principals, especially at our elementary school. Since the pandemic, I think everybody has recognized that that sense of community is so important to our mental health, physical health,
Mhm.
and overall well-being. And so our principals have really leaned into family engagement and
Yes.
opportunities at our schools to build that sense of community, as you talked about, that social opportunity, and just make school less of a task and more of an opportunity. And that's what we want for our students, is to I know that it's probably their perspective limits their ability to recognize the value add, but if their families can recognize the value add, then I think that the tone is different, the attitude is different, the buy-in is different. And I can promise you that when families value their children's education, that those children benefit from that and perform higher.
it's also an opportunity for them to get know their teachers a little bit
That's right.
outside of the
Yeah,
classroom.
like they're real people.
Where they're not being told to sit,
Right.
to
Right.
go through all the regular, pay attention, da, da,
Sure.
da. So building relationships. So yeah,
That's a
I
great
think
point.
that's cool too. I just had so obviously we're speaking about DRE, but that's an option at all of our
Hmm.
schools, correct? I
That's
didn't
right.
know, not familiar as much with those programs, or if they're similar across the schools or not.
There are some variations, but largely similar. There's some garden clubs, of course, running clubs, and archery, and some parent engagement nights. So, loosely aligned, but allows for individual community identity as well.
That's awesome.
What are some programs or opportunities within the schools that some people may not realize exist?
So, I do think there's a large opportunity, and I think this is a big misconception from the past, for parent volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering, I think your first step is to reach out to your family resource coordinator or youth service center coordinator, and they will be happy to walk you through the necessary steps that it takes to be a volunteer. So that's first and foremost that I'd like to point out. Second, student clubs and organizations. Not all of those take place after school, so we know for a lot of our families, transportation and work schedules can sometimes be a barrier for participation. But a lot of our schools have built in opportunities. I know at the high school and at Mason, where I was principal, we had those opportunities built into the day to allow for that. There's opportunities for student passion projects. I know in our elementary schools, like the gardening club that I talked about, I think Mason still does the Mason Marketplace, which is a 3 through 5 entrepreneurial program that students can opt into. I know that schools have utilized Lamar Fowler to provide opportunities for leadership in various ways. And so we have clubs at the middle school and clubs at the high school that really allow for students to be a part again of another meaningful community during the school day.
So we have our third annual Dream Grant County fundraiser, and we are going to call it Once Upon a Dream. And that is going to be at the Jean LeBeth at 129 South Main Street in Dry Ridge on Saturday, June 20th at 5 p.m. So this is going to be an evening where we're going to have great food. Brothers Barbecue is going to be there catering, and they catered for us last year, and the food was absolutely delicious. So if you come for nothing else, just having good food is wonderful. We're also going to have a silent auction, and that will be a big part of our fundraiser. We're hoping to have some really unique finds, some vintage things, all kinds of cool and different things that would be fun to bid on. We are going to have an ice cream social, and so we're going to provide ice cream from the Kentucky Y'all icebox and all the little goodies to go with our ice cream, and that will give it a unique flair, and that will kind of tie everything together. But our main attraction for the evening will be 2 amazing story artists. We're going to have Bill Lepp and Paul Strickland. They are both nationally known for their ability to tell stories and to keep an audience entertained. Paul Strickland is from Covington, and we're so blessed to have him so close. Both of these men are absolutely behind our cause. They want us to succeed, and they're willing to come and spend their time with us and help us to have a really good evening. People should start thinking about it, because you're not going to find this quality of entertainment in Grant County very often.
You spoke about the Career and Technology Center. I'm going to probably put you on the spot here.
That's okay.
I think you mentioned there was maybe 12 programs or something like that. Are you able to kind of like let us know what those programs are?
Well, I'm going to do my best to cover all 12. Apologies ahead of time to the high school if I leave anybody out. It's not on purpose. But thinking off the top of my head, I know that we have nursing and health science. We have agriculture. We have family and consumer science, and I believe early childhood education. We have our ROTC. We have automotive, electrical, welding, culinary. We have business and some IT, engineering, and I believe biomedical. And I think that pretty much covers it. And again, I apologize to anyone I may have left out.
I mean, that's quite a lineup.
Sure.
So, I guess
Again, more opportunities than we may have had. So.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It's not just a auto shop. I know that was like the main one we had.
Mine was typing. I actually learned how to type on a Selectric typewriter. That dates how old I am.
I was going to say, I was on the end.
I did the same.
Oh.
I was on the end.
We won't discuss age, but okay.
Into the typewriter era, but excuse me.
So we've got the career pathways.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty identified with the titles of the pathways. I guess what is the student doing in those pathways that kind of prepares them?
So yeah, that's a great question. I alluded to that earlier. So I always thought of that when I was at the high school principal level as value add. What was the value add? I think is what you're asking of that pathway. So a couple of things. One of those could be an end of program assessment, which gives you credit for having passed a rigorous test that is related to that program. And then other thing, many of those pathways include several licensing opportunities and certification opportunities. Certification is probably the better way to say that, but it allows you to take OSHA certification or other things that kind of give you a real value add and resume builder as you enter into those career fields. And so that's what our position is on that, is you're coming out of those programs having something that you could not acquire without going through those programs.
Right. That OSHA one it's a big
Yeah,
it's a big one to
absolutely.
get.
And the exposure, the hands-on exposure. I mean, we have such great partners and such great teachers. A lot of those teachers have been career professionals in those fields. So our students are working with industry standard equipment. So that's another thing, is the exposure piece.
So also on exposure, would maybe on some of those program areas, maybe local businesses or local colleges be connected to all that?
Yes, I mentioned earlier we have a pretty extensive co-op and internship program that places our students in their interest fields, and we have a lot of participating businesses in that. You can find some of those on our website. We shout those out in our local accountability dashboard. And then we have great relationships with colleges and technical schools. I just met with the president of Gateway a couple of weeks ago and talked about how we can better align and better serve students in Grant County. I appreciate that conversation. We've had a long-standing relationship with Northern Kentucky University. I know our ag department does some work with Murray State, and that's just a few of the programs that we have developed relationships and partnerships with.
I just really like hearing that. And I mean, I see like on Facebook where you guys share the accomplishments and the ceremonies and the certifications and things like that. And like we've talked about, that stuff didn't exist when we were there. So I'm just, I really like seeing that is a part of that, and that's something that my son will soon be able to have the opportunity for.
To that point, our graduate profile is Succeed. And so one of the things that occurred to me, and it predates me, but that I was able to recognize as high school principal, is that success can't be just a future phenomena for our kids. And so they have to experience and taste success all the way through school and build those habits of success that will sustain them. So recently I was able to speak to a group of high schoolers about their end of program assessments. And I really tried to drive that point home. There's so many opportunities for you to experience, taste, and reap the benefits of real, meaningful, measurable success as a Grant County student. And the reason we're providing those is not to make us look good, but to give them practice in being successful so that they're not lost when we no longer have access to them or are able to support them with such intentionality.
And I mean, just that being able to continue, or like you said, just being able to have those opportunities and connections and social capital that you're developing, just having those, the skills. And, we already talked about with archery, just life skills, just being prepared and, not just going and on, like we said, oh, well, I got to go to college. And, acknowledging that there is so many opportunities in different areas that maybe some felt in the past that they couldn't succeed.
Sure.
In that traditional, route.
That's a great point.
So we talked about the field improvements and things like that at the high school and tennis courts and all that. Are there any other construction projects going on or expansion projects within the district?
Well, if you haven't been to Dry Ridge lately, which I know you have, it's an absolute transformation of what it was to what it is now.
We've noticed
I'm somebody that went to
things.
Dry Ridge as a child, and to see it now, it's like, I know it's the same building, but goodness gracious, they've done a good job.
Absolutely. And for anybody that hasn't stepped inside recently, it feels like a brand new school on the inside, and so many beautification things on the outside to give it greater coherence. I know that that's a multi-phase building, and at one time it was two different schools, but kudos to the architect and the construction team for pulling that all together. And we're slated to get all new furniture for it over the summer, so that'll kind of be the finishing touch. working with Danielle Haley, Public Information Officer, to have a kind of a grand opening, hopefully set in the fall sometime. That allowed, because there's a lot of people that went through that building that I think would have loved the opportunity, and they may have been a teacher or student or both, or even a parent to see the improvements that have been made. We are also just now exploring the potential for major renovation at Crittenden Mount Zion Elementary. So that's the one that's probably, it's been since 2005 since we've had a major upgrade to that building. And I'm encouraged by the residential growth that is happening in the county. So I feel like we are able to sustain that, and we need to be prepared for future expansion. I do think it's a matter of time, just based on our northern and southern counties filling up. It seems like. So I think we're in pretty good shape, but I'm excited about the potential to really do a major renovation and overhaul of Crittenden and Mount Zion Elementary. I would say that most of our other facilities are in pretty good shape. The oldest part of the high school turns 30 years old within the next year or two. That's hard to believe, I know. So we're taking a look at maybe doing some updates on the oldest part of that building in our most public spaces. That could potentially include the library, auditorium, gymnasium, those kinds of things. That work hasn't begun yet, but that's all part of the conversation. I also want to say that I've worked in several school districts and traveled to many school districts in several states. And I am so impressed with our facilities and the intentionality and the care that has gone into preserving our facilities and maintaining them. I think it's exceptional. And I think our students, especially students that have grown up here their entire lives, maybe don't appreciate how much work goes into our facilities and how nice our facilities are. And even if you just think about the technology, we're a 1-to-1 across the district. Every student has access to a Chromebook. We have Promethean boards in almost every of our classrooms. So there's been so much work at giving our students the best resources physically that it's very impressive to me.
I can speak to some of the building aspects as being a substitute teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when you were speaking about Crittenden and Mount Zion, I mean, even with some of the infrastructure issues, they don't lack for technology.
Right.
And, so they really are putting in that commitment to developing things like that. And so maybe, the gym's not the best,
Right,
and
right.
I'm sure everybody knows that, but we still have fun. I'm going to be PE teacher for a little bit, and
good.
yeah, so we still get our laps in, and so I mean that's just one of those things. Every school is going to have their diamonds and then little rough spots, but it's good to know that I'm sure they would they appreciate the plans for the future.
Yes.
And
Yes.
So, like looking forward and things like that with renovations that need to be done or that are currently going on, how is that funded? Is that state money? Is that grants that are received?
So it's a combination of things, and that's a great question. We are fortunate to have what are called 3 nickels, and basically what that says is that our tax structure is set up that a certain percentage is matched by the state. So we appreciate that, and those are restricted funds. I do think it's important to point out that typically does not come from general fund, and general fund is what impacts our ability to give staff raises. So when people see big projects going on like the turf field renovation and maybe a future renovation at Crittenden and Mount Zion, we're not pulling money away that we could be spending on staff or resources. It's money that's protected and earmarked for capital projects. And so we're just maximizing what is available to us in those pots of money to be able to give our students the best. So I appreciate that question, because I don't think I fully appreciated that until I became a superintendent of how those funding structures work. And then I know that with the DRE renovation, there was some money earmarked, I believe, from the legislature that allowed us to be able to do a big part of that project.
I think that would be a major misconception or at
Hmm.
least misunderstanding by parents and
Sure.
people outside of education, because I don't think people truly realize all of the minutia and the
Right.
details of what we must teach and what,
Mhm.
you know, and then just, no, this money is specifically for this. And so being able to navigate all of that is, I would say, probably a difficult part of your job if
Uh,
if you had to.
oh,
I'm not going
absolutely.
to answer for you, I'm sure, but I can only imagine for myself that that would be a very time consuming aspect of the
Well,
job.
and there's no crystal ball, right? There's
Hmm.
no way to know if an air conditioning unit's going to go down in a building, or what infrastructure is going to fail when, and when you're going to have to really make a big purchase, or incur a big loss or an expense that you weren't counting on. It's very similar to owning a home, but it's like owning 6 to 8 homes of multi-million-dollar worth and using public money to pay the mortgage. So to your point, it's a lot more complicated, and there has been a steep learning curve. Fortunately, I will say superintendents rally around each other. Finance officers meet together regularly. Everybody wants everyone to be successful, especially in public education. There is a commitment that we want everyone to be successful, because ultimately our whole purpose is to make our community stronger, to protect the investment of our taxpayers, and to provide a strong return on investment.
I mean, we're developing the future.
That's right.
If I mean, and I think some people forget that,
Right.
and that maybe education should be more important in a forefront. But that's just my sociology comes back in, and I'm like, well, what could we do to make things better?
Yeah.
Education.
Well, yeah, you can get me off on a real tangent
I was
now.
gonna say, I think
Mm,
you and I
yeah.
we'll save some of that
Okay.
conversation for later.
That may be a follow-up episode. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, get into the theories
Yeah.
and, all that behind. But at least for the public, I just knowing some of the behind the scenes that really kind of restrict
Hmm.
what you can do.
Sure.
And so it's good to touch on that. So,
Well, even with respect to the athletic facilities, there's that legislation's only 3 or 4 years old that allowed us to use bonding potential to pay for that. So that's been a major shift, and it's because of the vast inequities across the state. The state legislators realized that athletics are a huge part of school, and that facilities ultimately come down to a safety issue.
Hmm.
And so there was a decision to open up revenue streams that would allow for improvements, and I think everybody has benefited as a result.
that's great.
All right, so let's take a second, because this part really matters. I recently had a chance to sit down with families that are working with Dream Grant County through the Kentucky Y'all Icebox. And they didn't have polished answers. They were talking about real life. They talked about how Mona and Rochelle have changed so many things for them. And not in a small way. In a, like, my child is more confident way kind of thing. And then also, like, my child feels included. And they talked about how many skills that they're learning, how they're earning money, how their children are walking with pride. And that's just the most impactful thing that you can possibly have. And you just don't forget that. So on June 20th, you get to step into that story, the Once Upon a Dream. You'll have amazing food, live storytelling, a silent auction, and a room full of people who actually care about showing up for each other. So if you've ever thought, I wish I could help, this is it. This is where it starts.
So I know you've talked a lot about the opportunities that students have and how well students are doing across the state and things like that. But
Mhm.
what might be some accomplishments that Grant County Schools has, or that the people in the community may not even know about?
Well, I think we have students that compete in all of our pathways at a state, regional, and sometimes national level. We've had national award winners in those areas. Again, I want to come back to our graduation rate is really improved and really strong. I'm confident that we're going to get near 100% college and career readiness and at our high school, if not this year, then next year, because of the amount of attention and focus on that. Again, we have athletes that compete at the state, regional, district level that are super strong. We have students going to every type of university and school imaginable, some very prestigious elite schools, and students that are entering the workforce in very lucrative and very rewarding and fulfilling jobs. So I would put us up against anybody. We were recognized in Money Magazine as a top performing high school recently a couple of times because of our college and career readiness, our career and tech program, our graduation rate, all of those things factored in. We're ever increasing our dual credit opportunities for students to earn college credit while they're in high school. We have a robust and vibrant education foundation that supports that effort and provides scholarships for dual credit students. So the list just goes on and on and on. The fact that we do have an ROTC program in our high school, I dropped out of band actually one year in high school to join the Air Force ROTC program in Harrison County and loved it, and had a hard time deciding which way I wanted to go. But I think having that exposure is so critically important for our families and for our students. So again, our bass fishing, our wrestling, our welding, there's just so many opportunities for our kids that we do compete and we do represent very strongly and very well.
You mentioned welding, and I've always been interested in this, but I've never done it, where they offer
Mhm.
the welding class to adults in the community. And is that something that is still like,
To the
what is it, in the fall, I think, that they do it?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, that's still going on. If you decide to sign up, let me know because I'm interested in it too. I have a farm and I can't tell you how many pieces of equipment that I have had to go seek outside help for welding. So, yeah, we have opportunities like that for our community as well. We have a huge literacy grant right now that is supporting our literacy efforts, especially in our younger grades. So we have many programs and opportunities. We're partnered with some of our local childcare providers to do that. We're going to have family nights through our family resource coordinators. So there's opportunities. One thing we did not touch on that, again, I think makes Grant County a little bit unique. We have a lot of relatives raising children. And so rather than seeing that as a barrier for our students, I am so proud of our efforts to lean into how can we best support those relatives raising without any judgment as to why those families are in those circumstances. That's a separate conversation and a separate topic. What our interest is in how can we support you? How can we get you involved, whether you're an aunt, uncle, cousin, or a grandparent? How can we include you in that student's education, make you feel comfortable, make you feel safe, say that it's okay, I don't understand how you're doing math. It's not the way we did it when I was in school.
Check.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back to substitute, I'm like, wait, what do you mean you don't just put them on top? You gotta, the boxes. I'm
Right.
not saying it's bad. I'm just
Right.
saying it's a learning curve for some of us.
I look at my
oldies.
son's work and I'm like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, it's a totally different model, but all of it's based on research and based on brain development.
Stuff
And-
we don't know about, but
Right.
I know there's probably plenty of people in the public like, oh, why can't we just teach regular math? What's all this? But they don't realize there's a reason, right?
Well,
There is studies.
Absolutely. And it kind of goes back to what I said about my arc. over the 26 years. We started out teaching kids facts, and now we teach kids analysis and synthesis and
Reasoning and
right, all those kind of higher level things. And again, as technology continues to advance in what it's able to do, I think it's far more critical that we hold on to those skills of reasoning and analysis so that we can best evaluate the proper and improper uses of a technology and, really contribute in powerful ways to our community. So I think those roles are going to shift a little bit. And I think um, critical thinkers and high level communicators are going to be positioned to be very influential in the future.
because I know some of them will say, well, why do I need to know this math? I've got a calculator. I've got Google. I don't need to know which president, but you know what I mean? Because we
Right.
had to memorize
Right.
facts. And now they're like, well, I don't need any of this. And it's like, well, analyzing and being able to, I can see the shift and be like, and even myself, I do it. And I'm like, oh, what was that? I'm like, I know I knew this at some point.
Sure.
But now I have that. So anyway, that was just another little side note
Yeah.
that I think, some of us are starting to realize some of the changes and
Yeah.
maybe not putting those two things together and the reasons why.
Sure. Sure.
So, as superintendent, what might be one moment that you take a step back and you think like, this is why I do this job?
Well, I think it is always most visible for me at graduation commencement. And, there have been several. I think it's to see the agency that our seniors have by the time that they graduate, the confidence that they have. Everybody has a story. Not everybody is ready to share their story. So, having served as principal at two of the schools and seeing some of the students that accomplish such great things walk across that stage and do so with a sense of confidence and optimism about their future, I think for me, that's probably one of the times I treasure the most because, those graduates represent a lot more than just what they incurred and encountered during school. And many of them have overcome significant challenges and setbacks and hardships. But I am confident that they're going to be mighty powerful in their future and in their endeavors, and a sense to recognize that regardless of what your hardships or experiences you encounter, they don't define you. Right? It's more about your heart and your intention, your grit and your vision and your focus. Those are the things that you have agency over. Those are the opportunities for you to author your own story. You don't have to be defined by your circumstances, but you can be defined by your vision and your imagination and your heart and how you treat people. And for me, all that gets wrapped up in a tidy, neat package at graduation. And I know it resonates with a lot of our community because anytime that we have to restrict access, people become passionate. And I hate, if I could have a magic wand, we'd have a stadium that could seat 100,000 people to allow
You feel it.
Yeah, you feel it. Yeah, we would feel it because I think it's the biggest event going on that we have. So I know that it's important to so many people. But for me, I think that ceremony is not just a box that we check to say that we've done it, but it represents the culmination of all the efforts, all the resources, all of the grit and the perseverance of not just kids, but their families and their teachers and the staff. So I would say that I really treasure those events.
It helps you look beyond the numbers, right?
Mhm.
At the
Absolutely.
end of the day, I mean, you're dealing with numbers and stats all day, but then
Yeah.
to actually be able to see it, that's pretty inspiring, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. And it really speaks to the humanity of it, to your point. And, as a culture and a society, we've lost kind of some of our ceremonies. And so to me, that's a ceremony that's worth preserving. And I remember my high school band director talking about that when I was a student. He's talked about how serious it was. And as a 17-year-old senior, I was like, well, come on. I want to get on with my life.
Yeah.
But
Pomp and circumstance,
right?
right? That
Yeah, a
good
thousand
old,
times. But now I see what he was trying to relay to us. This isn't insignificant. The fact that you are where you are in this moment is not by chance, but it took a lot of miracles and a lot of people working on your behalf to get you where you are. And I hope that we can be wind in their sail as they move forward.
Absolutely. So, if you could correct one misconception that people have about public schools today, what might that be?
That we're trying to indoctrinate children. Um, I think all we're trying to do is equip children.
Mhm.
And so I hear this from every angle, that because there are things that go on in some schools, it must go on in every school. And so, again, go back to my definition of wealth. It's choice and options. All I'm trying to do is give every kid, the foundation and framework to be able to tackle difficult problems, to be self-starters, to have confidence in their ability, and to know that their life can very much be driven by their vision for their life. And so we're not here to place limitations on anyone. We're only here to support and empower and build our students up so that they can lead self-directed, self-determined, high agency lives, self-actualized lives. And that's what we're here for. And every position, every brick, everything that we have exists to that end. It's not self-serving in any way. If we do exceptionally well, there's no increase in funding. There's no incentive except that we do well because we want our children to do well, our students to do well, and we want our community to do well.
That's fantastic.
So, as we kind of start to wrap up this podcast, is there a message that you would like to send to the Grant County community about the schools?
We're committed in building a bright future for the community. We're committed to being partners with the community. I think we've done a lot of things in the past year and a half, 2 years, to become more transparent, to open up lines of communication. We want to reflect your values. I think I said this to the paper the other day. Great schools build great communities, and that can't happen without great trust. And I am proud to be a part of this community. I'm proud to be a part of the school. I think Grant County has so many great things going for it. I get really frustrated when I hear people down talk Grant County or downplay our strengths and our attributes. There's no reason to do that. We have so many positives, and we're not perfect, but no community that I've ever lived in is. But I think we have people with tremendous heart, tremendous work ethic, tremendous compassion. And I think if you have those ingredients, the sky's the limit. So we're here to serve, and we're doing the best that we can. And if you see an area that we can improve, you're not going to get vilified for having a conversation with us. We ask that you would be respectful in sharing that feedback. But, one of the reasons I started the town halls is I wanted feedback from the community. I want to know that we're working in ways that the community appreciates and values, and the things that we're doing is reflective of that.
Yeah, transparency, just,
Yes.
helping communicate so you guys are confused. Well, this is what we're doing.
Sure.
So that's awesome.
Todd, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, well,
and
thank you.
sharing
It's been
more
great.
about, and you shared a lot about what was happening across Grant County schools. It was a lot of beneficial information.
Happy to do it, and I'd love to come back anytime.
I'm going to hold you to that.
There's so
Okay.
much going on. I mean,
Yeah,
we could
for
have
sure.
episodes on just, every little thing, So
Absolutely.
that's great. We're glad that you can represent us and really show off our schools.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and share the We Are Grant County podcast, and visit wearegrantcounty.com to explore the community app and learn more about the people, organizations, and events happening across our county. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
As we wrap up today's episode, don't forget about Dream Grant County. Once Upon a Dream is happening June 20th, and it's more than just a night out. It's a chance to be part of something that's building confidence, opportunity, real change. Come for the food, stay for the stories, and leave knowing you helped to make a difference. Because this community, we show up.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Grant County podcast. Be sure to check out other episodes and make sure you subscribe so you're always notified when a new episode is available. Stay up to date with all things Grant County by using the We Are Grant County app. And you can find that at wearegrantcounty.com.
ToadTalkMedia.com.